Good evening, everyone, and welcome to TLT Off the Bench for this Tuesday, round three. I'm the host, Ross, coach of Bench Warmers, and tonight I'm joined by Tim, the coach of Lightweights. Welcome, Tim.
Evening, sports fans. Evening, Roscoe. It's been an interesting TLT list that's been dropped this afternoon, filled with injuries and injury replacements. Obviously, Manly will come in off the bye, and the Panthers go on the bye. So it's going to be interesting for coaches and to see how they navigate all the ins and outs through team lists.
Yep, and plenty of carnage with concussions as well. Plenty of that. So few super coach relevant players. So we'll crack into it and go through the teams and just do a quick rundown. So the first game is Manly versus the Eels. For Manly, Josh Schuster returns from injury. Cooper John's dropping out to the reserves. And for Parramatta, there's no changes there for them. Knights versus Dolphins. The Knights have just been absolutely decimated with concussions and injuries. So they've got basically Ponga out with concussion, replaced by Tyson Gamble. Jaden Bradley's out with concussion, replaced by Phoenix Crossland. Tyson Frizzell's out injured, replaced by Brodie Jones. Jacob Safidi's out suspended, replaced by Jack Hetherington. And then their bench is Matt Croker, Ryan Rivet on debut, Jack Johns, and Dylan Lucas on debut. And for the Dolphins, JMK is out suspended, so Joe Martha King, replaced by Cody Nicarima. And Ray Stone comes back onto the bench, replacing Mason Teague. The next game is Roosters versus South. Roosters get Hargraves back, with Fletcher Baker moving back to the bench. Victor Bradley returns from concussion, replacing White, who drops out of the team. And for South, Totola is back from concussion, with Davey Moley moving back to the bench. And Daniel Fafita drops back to the reserves. Titans versus Storm. Titans, Brian Kelly returns back from injury, pushing Phillips Tammy to the wing. And JJ Fafita drops out, which is interesting because I thought he would probably hold this spot over Pereira. And Sam Verrills is out injured, replaced by Chris Randall, and Sam McIntyre drops to the reserves. And Tino's brother, Isaac, will debut off the bench for the Titans this week as well. Be interested to see how he goes as well. For the Storm,
what position was he named in? Just on the bench.
I think he's a forward as well. But he's on the bench. Storm gets some big players back, which they need. Justin Mollum's back from injury, replacing Jan Tonopia. David Coates returns from injury, replacing Grant Anderson, and Big Chewy Kamo Kamika is back, which is timely replacement with Nass being out 6 to 8 weeks injured. Tarek Sims will play his first game for the Storm, replacing Bronson Garlic on the bench. And Jonah Perez, will make his debut off the bench for the Storm as well. Next game is Cowboys versus Warriors for the Cowboys.
Just a quick thing for viewers and listeners. If you're reading Ross's article that he's put on the webpage, just making sure you realise Xavier Coates hasn't retired. He's just returning. He hasn't retired due to injury. He's actually returned from injury. So Roscoe obviously punched this out very, very quickly as he's super efficient. But yeah, you might just want to double check things before you freak out as you read through some of these.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll critique Roscoe's work later on, as I generally do.
As long as we can get Sam Walker for 238K as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a cracking trade in Sammy Walker for 234K.
Bargain. All right, so Cowboys versus Warriors for the Cowboys. Scott Drinkwater's out suspended, which we all thought that Val Holmes would go to fullback, which he hasn't. Tom Chester has been named at fullback. Peter Hickory's out suspended, replaced by George Shibashabi. I think it is. So however you pronounce his name. Tim, he used to play for your team, didn't he?
Yeah, Shibasaki, yep.
For the Warriors, TNK is out with concussion, replaced by Haine Tuapiki. Piki is however you pronounce that. He's on debut. Jackson Ford's out with concussion, replaced by Bunty Afoa, and Bailey Soonen joined the interchange bench. For the Broncos versus Dragons next. Broncos, Corey Oates is out for a few weeks, injured, replaced by Jesse Arthurs. For the Dragons, no changes. Bulldogs versus Tigers. Dogs, no changes. Tigers have got some changes here. Charlie Staines moves to fullback with Dan Laurie out injured, and Junior Tupu comes onto the wing. I don't believe he's injured. I'm sorry. I don't believe that.
He got hooked late in that game the other day, and Charlie was moved there, and they put Dane Laurie out on the wing. So yeah,
Yep.
look, I think that might be a sign of things to come. I think that's what they bought good old shit Staines for. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can hold that spot. It's whether or not it's his spot to lose. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. IPAP is out suspended, replaced by Sean Law. Tommy Talau is out with concussion, replaced by Star Fatoa. Tono Pole returns from injury, with Joe Offengowie moving back to the bench, and Seaforth drops out. Joe Pinkins is also out with concussion, replaced by Brandon Wakeham on the bench. And then we have Raiders versus Sharks last game. For the Raiders, Atta Mariota is out injured, replaced by Trey Mooney on the bench. And for the Sharks, Jack Williams replaces Connor Tracy on the interchange bench. Tim, lots of concussions there, which is a bit of a concern.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in the process of writing an article for our off the bench page. One of my what's the go with Timmy O's. So that should come out sometime in the next 24 hours, and focusing purely on concussions and head knocks. It's about time the NRL starts to get a little bit more serious. I did the maths. There's currently 90 players, or before this round, there was currently 90 top 30 players that are out at the moment for injury. Of that top 90 players, there was 18 that I could find information on that are directly related to concussions or head knocks. That obviously includes a couple of broken jaws and a few other bits and pieces. So, yeah, look, that's a pretty high stat when you're looking at 18 to 20 odd of 90 players that are currently out, and these are all head knock related. So, yeah, look, it's I think it is about time that the NRL does start to get a little bit more serious with it. At the same time, we don't want it to go to like it was for Magic Round in 2021, where anytime somebody's fingernail brushed past somebody on the head, they got 10 minutes in the bin. I think that was a little bit ridiculous. However, they do have to start to do something. I think the Jackson Hastings call on the weekend that put Tommy Talau out cold with a broken nose or with broken jaw. Look, that was an absolute shocker as far as I was concerned. Yes, he didn't come flying in with a big stiff arm or anything like that, but you can't try and tell me that tackle wasn't a little bit reckless and he probably couldn't have gone a little bit lower and done something different. So, look, Tommy Talau left the field at the time for 15 minutes for a HIA assessment, was later obviously ruled out. Jackson Hastings got nothing for it. I think that was probably one of the more careless ones over the weekend that probably could have been avoided and, in my opinion, probably should have been sent. It's interesting when you take, with HIA players, when you take them off the field for that 15-minute mandatory assessment, don't get me wrong, I understand there's accidents and things like that. Kalen Ponga's one was a bit of a freak accident where he was basically got his head stuck in the wrong spot and just accidents happen. I totally get that. But in the case of Jackson Hastings, like I can't understand why he doesn't get 10 minutes when they're a player that he puts out cold on the ground or knocks in the face so solid like, then has to go off the field for 15 minutes. I think you take, if you've already got Ponga off the field in that game, you take Jackson Hastings off for 10 minutes. I can't see the Tigers not winning that game. Mind you, they tried pretty bloody hard not to win it with every other facet of gameplay throughout the 80 minutes.
Well, just on Hastings too, he only got he got charged, but only got a fine, no suspension.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like they had the bunker, so that the bunker could have ruled on it to say that, yes, he's broken a rule and, yes, he was in the wrong. So at which point, if it is a rule and the bunker had an opportunity to rule on it, why the hell is he getting fined now if during the game they said, no, mate, that's fine?
The other thing I'd like to see him implement too is something where if a player has to go from injury HIA 15 minutes, that player's been put on report, they should also automatically go to the bin for 15 minutes as well.
Oh, it's exactly right. I don't understand how, like in that situation, that was just ridiculous and it looked pretty blatant to me. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he meant it. I'm not saying there was anything malicious, but you take him off for 15 and the other bloke's left on the field and then later gets fined for a high tackle. Like it's just, that's bonkers.
Yeah, so I think they've done the right step, going in the right direction with, being really serious with these HIAs. But I think this is the next step of something they really need to have a look at.
I think they just need to get more serious during a game.
Yeah.
And the last thing we want to see is a game of rugby league where it's 10 on 10 or anything ridiculous like that. But I think for the ones that are a lot more blatant than others, I think they have to start to grow some balls and start sending boys to the bin.
I actually think we spoke about this on the pod on Sunday night, but I think that if they didn't already have a player in the bin, I think Hastings would have gone. But that shouldn't make any difference as far as
Of course not. If they're getting serious about player safety and all the information that's coming out now, the medical information that's coming out and saying how bad some of these guys are in 10 or 15 years out of the game, like they've got to start to really step up and fix the problem now. I know that, like even my own bloke Bailey, as we've talked about him on the show before, he played rugby league for 3 years. In the off season this year, he's just decided, Dad, I want to go back to playing soccer. He can see already that like he's basically shit scared. And he was a really good player. Obviously, it's juniors and he's only young, but the kid's just gone through the best part of 3 seasons with a 3 try average per game over 3 years. So he could certainly score a try and was pretty solid in defence as well. But even he can see that like it's pretty bloody scary when these bodies are getting bigger, even at that level. Bodies are getting bigger and just head knocks are going to happen.
Yeah. All right, so we'll go and have a look at some of the trade trends now. We'll go through the trade outs first. Number one on the list, Brandon Smith. No brainer for me, has to go. Been very, very disappointing. I know he cracked that rib injury when Kafusi absolutely drilled the shit out of him that last week, which was so good to see. But 23,000 nearly trading him out makes sense, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. What's that? 25% of the field, basically, or something close to it. 20%.
Yeah, an 18%, bit over 18% trading him out. Yeah. All right, number 2 on the list is Nathan Cleary. Interesting one. Got 10,000 trading him out this week. I can see the merit in trading him out, but I don't think it's a priority trade given that they've got to buy this week. I think you can wait a week.
Yeah, this is one that I'm stewing over myself. I've got Cleary and I've lost Ponga, so I sort of do have to do something in the halves, or ideally need to do something in the halves. So, yeah, it is a bit interesting because that cash from Cleary, when you spread Cleary and Ponga and then you do a small downgrade of like a 270K player down to a 230K player, you've got enough cash there to bring in my halves. Like I can bring in Hughes and DCE. So that's 2 pretty solid players that I can bring in, and that makes a huge difference. But then the downside is I'm bringing in 2 high-value players. Obviously, Hughes BE alone, I think it's 75, 80, something like that. So it's not a guarantee that he might not lose cash. If he doesn't reach his BE, then his BE is going to be even higher in a week's time. Then you've got DCE. He's only played the 1 game, so you don't know what Manly's really going to turn up, although history does show that he scores pretty well when Turbo's in the team, as does Garrick. So, yeah, look, it's an interesting call. There's a lot of cash there with Cleary that can be spread around, but I'm not convinced that this is the right time to do it. I'm starting to think maybe wait a week. Cash is key at this time of the season, and maybe leave that one a week and, make a couple of other downgrades somewhere else to generate some cash if you need to.
I think it depends on who your backup halfback is too. Like, okay, I've got Katoa as my backup halfback, and I sat there and I'm like, oh, geez, that's no good. But then I saw that they're playing the Knights who are decimated with injuries. I think if you've got Katoa as your backup halfback, it's not the worst option in the world to play him and just leave Cleary for a week and potentially trade him next week out before he loses his cash to maybe Nico Hines, because there's talk that Hines will be back next week. And you get another look at Cherry Evans too, if you look at him, because I've had him before and his base is terrible. If he doesn't have any attacking stats, he'll get you flat 20. He doesn't have the base that the other halves have.
The other plus I've got, because I can sell Ponga from 5'8" and actually bring Katoa down, then that gives me the option to bring in another halfback. So I might be able to look at Hines or Tricky Trindle seems to be pretty popular, which I'm sure we'll talk about later on.
Yeah, we'll talk about him in a minute when we get there. Next one's Kalen Ponga. Makes sense. HIA, we don't know how many games he's going to miss. He's got to go, so we'll just skip past that. Tedesco, James Tedesco, 6,000 traded out. Gonna lose probably a bulk of cash now. He's got to break even at 135. I was hesitant. I was going to sell him, and now I'm trying to change my mind. It just feel he turns up for these big games. Now, Roosters have struggled of late, but they're getting some players back slowly. They're getting Bradley back, Hargraves back. Um, yeah, I've got other priority trades. I'm happy to fee him if he can punch out a 60 or a 70. He doesn't lose much cash. I'm happy to hang on to him for now.
Yeah, look, I think that's really important. It's just the matchup itself that it's East versus South, basically. It's one of the more traditional grudge matches from two of the main teams that have been around for 200 years. So yeah, look, it's I wouldn't be trading out Teddy this week. I think if there's any game that he's going to get up for, it's going to be this grudge match against the Bunnies.
Also, too, I mean, he probably should have turned up last week. He bombed the try, and then Suwali refused to pass to him. But yeah, anyway, all right. Next on the list is Tanner Boyd. Just under 6,000 trading him out makes sense to me. I don't think there's much to say about him. He's been very disappointing. For coming up against a Storm this week, I think he will make a little bit of cash, but I think he has to go. It's probably not priority though. He's not going to lose a lot of cash. He must have this week. Number 6 on the list is Tommy Talau. Makes sense. Got knocked out. You know, obviously he's got the broken nose. He's missing this week with concussion. I can see a lot of people probably going from Talau to potentially Hammer, which I'm doing that. Probably doing that same trade. That's a no-brainer for me. Hammer's going to make a ton of cash this week, potentially close to about 130k this week alone. Next on the list is Scott Drinkwater. Makes sense. Suspended for 3 weeks. Don't think there's much to say there on him, Tim.
No, that's a pretty blatant one, that one.
Next on the list is Matt Burton. Now, this is an interesting one for me. I've got 3,000 trading him out this week. I don't think this is the week to be doing it. They're playing the Tigers.
Sorry, mate, what was that? I was just changing and clicking on the
got about 3,000 trading at Matt Burton this week, and they're playing against the Tigers. I don't think that's a must-do trade this week.
No, but I think the tough part was like Burton's kind of looked a bit of a shadow of himself from last season. Like, what did he score last weekend? He was on 25 points or something ridiculous. He
didn't score much, and a team that won pretty easy too against Melbourne.
Yeah, I think that was the concerning part. What they score 30 odd points, and he still only scored 30 on points himself.
Yeah, well, Carraz got a whack at the points, obviously 145, and O'Brien got 90. So pretty much none of the halves really got anything.
Yeah,
it was all the back line pretty much that got all the points. Yeah, look, I mean, I'll get the trade, but
surely you got bigger fish to fry.
I agree. Number 9 on the list is CNK. Makes sense. He's out this week with concussion. Again, easy trade to Hammer for similar cash.
Yeah, I'm in that boat myself. I've got CNK there, so that may be a straight sideways trade over to the Hammer and bank a few bucks after he increases this week.
Now, number 10 on the list is Selwyn Cobbo. I get the trade, but with the draw that the Broncos have got coming up, I don't think it's priority. And from what I've seen, a lot of people are going from Cobbo to Carraz. Now, obviously, Carraz is going to make you a bucket load of cash this week, though, too. So it kind of makes sense to him in a way.
Yeah, look, the draw the Broncos have got over the next 6 weeks, St. George, then the Dolphins, Tigers, Raiders, Titans, and Para in round 8. So, look, it is a bit of a juicy draw, and as a Broncos member, I'm pretty keen to see how we really go over this period. But yeah, look, I don't know. I don't think I'd be selling any of the Broncos backs if I had them. Obviously, Corey Oates has got to go because he's going to miss a fair bit of time. But I'm not real keen on if you had anyone in the Broncos back. I think if you had any Broncos at all, I think you're probably mad to sell them.
I think you should be trading a couple in, if anything.
Well, yeah, absolutely. This is the run where you'd be aiming for them.
Yep. All right, we'll go to the trading list now. Wade Egan, number 1. Obviously, a lot of people are going from Cheese to Wade Egan. Nearly 15,000 have traded him in. what's your thoughts on Egan? Obviously, he's been flying under the radar, a couple of decent scores. Still playing 80 minutes, and the Warriors have had a pretty tough score, but doesn't seem to phase him at the moment.
No, he just seems to be doing all the hard work too, though. He's making plenty of tackles and he's actually running the ball as well. He's got a try in both games so far.
Yeah.
So that obviously makes a bit of difference, but still, he's been scoring really well and top point scoring hooker so far, is he not?
I think you might be right. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so look at a nice sideways trade from Cheese over to Wade Egan is probably a really good shout to bank some points and bank some, well, maybe bank some cash. Well, certainly with his BE, the price that it is and how much he's going to gain. So yeah, why not? Even then, worst case scenario in a couple of weeks' time, because Cheese obviously has the bye next week. So in a couple of weeks' time, if you wanted to go back to him, but yeah, you'd be mad probably not to look at Wade Egan even as a short-term cash grab, and then in 2 or 3 weeks' time, you might be able to go up to a Cook or or to a Harry Grant.
Mm. All right, number 2 on the list is the Hammer. 13,000 have traded him in. I think he's pretty much a must-have for this week. Would you agree if you don't have him?
Yeah, look, he's going to go up a bucket load of cash. So just the second that he steps on the field. So look, he's one that you don't like to say must have all that often, but yeah, he's probably looking like the one.
Especially against the Underman Knights team, I think he can rip them up to shreds this week too.
Yeah, look, I think that they've got a really good chance of if they're going to beat the Knights, then this is a really good week to do it. Great week to be facing them, that's for sure.
Yeah. Number 3 on the list is Jacob Carraz. 9,000 have traded him in. I'm not too convinced on this one. He has a good base. He pumped out a 145 last week, but he's not going to score 2 or 3 tries every week. I like their next 2 games. They are playing the Tigers and the Warriors. So I don't mind it as a quick cash grab if that's what you're looking at, but he definitely isn't a keeper.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at a short-term cash grab and go even just for 2 rounds, obviously after this round, that round 1 score of his drops out, but he keeps his 145 for the next 2 weeks. So look, if you wanted a short-term cash grab to then reach up to a Toto or a Val or a Garrick or someone like that in a couple of weeks' time, it's probably worth the trades.
Yep. Well, 567k, he's going to make over 100k this week alone. So,
and then you keep that 145 in there, even if he knocks out a 30 or a 40 this week, he's still looking okay, and will probably go up another 50k the week after.
Yep. All right. Next on this is Reed Marnie. He's one I'm bringing in this week. 8,400 have jumped onto him. Been pretty impressed with him so far. He pumped out an 80 against the Storm on the weekend. Made a couple of errors, but getting 80 minutes, not really much in the way of he doesn't have much in the way of attacking stats, but he makes a lot of tackles. He gets half his points in tackles alone. And then he just needs to have a try assist and a line break or line break assist, and before you know it, he's on 70, 80 points. So I think he's a good trade in this week.
And I think the working hookers like himself, it's I think he's a really good chance of getting those attacking stats close to the line, especially with the new 2-foot rule on the try line for the defence. So yeah, look, I really like him. He's been playing really, really well and certainly heavily involved. He seems to be the driving force in that Bulldogs attack at the moment.
Yep. All right, number 5 on the list is Reece Walsh. 6,688 have traded him in. Ultra impressive, as we discussed on the pod the other day. Him in his first game. The Broncos turning up. Juicy draw coming up. I'm not going to get him this week, but I'm potentially looking at getting him in next week. I just want to have one more look at him and see how he goes.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's only had the 1 game, so you've got another week to have a crack at him. Might be a handy downgrade for like Teddy will be on the bye next week, so he could be a handy downgrade from Teddy down to Reece Walsh and probably bank some cash and get a bit of a price rise as well.
That's the plan. That's exactly the plan. All right, number 6 on the list is Ezra Mam. 5,712 to trade him in. He's been pretty good this year. I love what I see from him. I love it. I love it that runs the ball. He just runs that ball. He doesn't think to kick. He doesn't think to pass. He just takes that line on, and that's what I love about him. He's just so different than the other half in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. He's probably my favourite half in the game at the moment. That's easy for me to say as a Broncos member, but he's just great to watch. The whole concept of run first, kick second, I like it, and it seems to be a part of the game that just not a lot of the halves possess anymore.
Yep. Number 7 on the list, Jacob Preston, just under 5,000 traded him in, bottom dollar. Set to make a fair bit of cash this week, around about 80k. Made 80, pumped out about 80 points on the weekend. I like the matchup against the Tigers, and then the Warriors next week, starting in on an edge. I think he's a really good buy this week.
Yeah, look, I'm quite surprised he's that far down the list. I really would have thought he'd be the top 1, 2, 3 odd trade-ins. He's a basement price, second rower, seems to have the job security. I think when all the moving pieces come around, we talked about it on the Sunday night show, that we seem to think that TPJ will come back into the forward rotation. Sutton will go back to the bench, and yeah, look, Preston should probably keep that second row spot on the right hand side. He looked really good. So look, he's at basement price and already looking to go up 80k. I don't know why you wouldn't look at him. I guess it just depends on which other issues in your team you've got to fix. You can't have them all, but when you factor in him and the hammer and guys like Wade Egan, who's going to go up some point as well, like you can't take them all, but it's just a case of probably crunching the numbers and work out what's best for your team.
I think he'll be higher up in the list come Thursday. I expected to be up higher up. Number other than the list, Mr. Hop Gun himself. 4,129 of jumping on him this week, and he's still only 68% owned.
Yeah, look, it makes you wonder. Although I'm sure that there's people who obviously won't make their trades till later on in the week, but surely he's got to be 80% owned by the end of this round. It's just ridiculous. And if he's not, you guarantee that it's because players have just stopped playing. But that's a really scary thought if we've lost 20, 25,000 teams already.
It was interesting because I was going through having a look at him yesterday, and 3 people are trading him out.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, all right, next on the list is Ricky Trindle. We spoke this. We'll have a chat about him quickly. 4,000 have traded him in. Hines is due back next week. It's not worth it for the 1 week play. You're only going to get a 1 week cash grab out of him. 1 week, 1 price rise. I think this is a no-go trade.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. Like in my situation, I could go Ponga to Trindle, bank 250 odd K that I could use for upgrades somewhere else. So it is an interesting one. Obviously, I'll be doing that via Jules with having Katoa that I could move from halfback down to 5'8". So yeah, look, it's an interesting one. I could understand why people are doing it. What's the cash? What's his BE? What's the projected cash rise?
I think he's projected to make about 70k.
Yeah, see, that's a decent slab of cash, and you could use that cash then to maybe help go towards Hines when he does come back. The tough part with Hines' injury, like ever since it actually happened, there hasn't been a lot of concrete evidence on how long he was really going to be out for. So that's probably the toughest part. Maybe it's people jumping in and hoping to God that he might get one or get more than 1 price rise out of him.
I think the smarter play, if you wanted to downgrade the cash, would be to go to Schuster. Job security's there.
Yeah, but again, he's another one. I know he's been named this week, but he wasn't named for round 1, and is he 100%? So maybe people want to have watch a week on Schuster. I mean, you could go Trindle this week and then turn him into Schuster the week after, bank 70k, and then obviously get a bit more cash there from the downgrade.
All right, number 10 on the list is Daly Cherry Evans. We'll have a quick chat about him because obviously I feel like a lot of people are going from Cleary to DCE. I'd want to wait another week and have another look at him and see how he goes because, as I said earlier, his base isn't great. He's not going to score 3 tries every week. I guess the upside, as you said, he does average a lot better with Turbo in the team.
Yeah, look, over previous seasons, he definitely does average much better once Turbo's in there. He's currently, so his next 6 rounds, he's got Para, then Souths, then Newcastle, Panthers, Storm, and then Tigers. So you take Newey and the Tigers out of that. That's 4 out of 6 pretty tough games, you'd like to think, for Manly. Manly did look pretty good in round 1, and obviously they won that pre-season trophy. Not that that counts for a great deal, but look, they did look really good, and DCE was right in the middle of all of it. So it will be interesting to see. Like we've said, with any of the Manly players, you do have another week to have a look at them. But look, I could understand if you're trying to find a long-term gain out of Cleary, then maybe a Nathan Cleary down to DCE. The Panthers, the Manly boys don't have another bye until round 14. So you could lock DCE in up until Origin starts, because guaranteed he's going to be there. But yeah, look, it's I can understand why people are doing it. You can keep him there for what's that, 10 rounds, and yeah, hopefully get something out of it.
I'm not really liking that draw though.
No, that's the toughest part. That the draw is probably the only negative that I can see at this point.
Yeah. All right. Just quickly.
The other part too, like I was just saying before, the other thing is obviously his 145 or whatever he made from round 1 will obviously drop out. It will be the first price rise that drops out. So as fast as he makes cash, he could lose it again too.
Yeah. All right. Just quickly before we finish up, I want the top 3 list of priority tradings this week.
My top 3.
And just what you think would be the top 3 priority tradings this week.
Oh, geez, I think you'd have to put the Hammer there. You'd have to put Hopgood there if you're part of the 40% that doesn't have him. And yeah, geez, I don't know. You'd probably look at
Preston,
Egan or Preston, I think.
Yeah. All right, that's it for tonight. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we will see you Sunday night for a round 3 wrap.
Absolutely. Enjoy the rest of your week, guys.
Good luck this round, everyone. Goodbye.